Please remember to keep your phones off and stay seated during our speaker. Now, please help me enthusiastically welcome our speaker, Craig. Let's have this bottle of water for you.
My name is Craig, and I'm an alcoholic. Thank you all that came out for the dinner tonight that I didn't make it to. Unfortunately, my mom was in the ER, and I spent most of the afternoon. She's going to be all right, so that's the good news. But I mean, Mike and a whole bunch of you showed up, and anyways, I showed up for like 5 minutes. Got this beautiful leather-bound book. So it's got my sobriety date, 2/28/1987. So now I can't drink, or otherwise he'd have to make me a new one. But it's just 35 years. Wow! Congratulations on all the chips. All the chips and the other anniversaries. I truly didn't think I'd live to be 35 years old. I really didn't. Let alone have 35 years sober. I was walking to get coffee on my birthday, and I actually had gratitude to tears and was actually just sobbing because I was so grateful. And the first thing I do when I start to cry is I try to choke it down because I don't want to not look cool. But then I thought, well, I got dark glasses on and there's nobody around, so it'd be all right, So that's a long ways from where I come from, I'll tell you. Seriously, I was born and raised in Wyoming, and there was something wrong with me early on. I didn't know what it was, but I can remember in second grade, I had the best marble collection of anybody, so I'm dating myself. A lot of people don't even know what marbles are anymore. But I had a shoebox full of marbles and steelies and, big shiny, and lots of them that hadn't even been opened. And the way I got those was my mom had a coin collection, silver coin collection, and me and my brother would steal a couple coins and we'd go down to the Woolworths and we would buy some marbles. And then one night at dinner, Mom said she thought the babysitter was stealing. So hell, now we had free reign, right? Now we're taking more. And anyways, the gal, this is a very small town, so the gal at the store told my mom that we were doing this, and I mean, I got my ass beat, and I didn't think she was ever going to stop. But so I had a hard time lying after that. I really did. The other thing I remember at a young age is in third grade, I told all my classmates that I had 2 watches. Now, why I had to have 2 watches to fit in, I don't know. But so I had a watch, but I stole my brother's watch, and I put it up under my sleeve on my shirt, and I went to school, and I showed everybody I had 2 watches. So I was never enough, I was never enough out the gate. And so that's how I started. Like I said, born and raised in Wyoming, pretty much unscathed through school, at least through grade school, junior high, a little bit. Smoking cigarettes, I got expelled, I think, maybe once or twice, and maybe some left-handed cigarettes. I don't remember. And then some of them little airline bottles of booze. In 6th grade, I took those in 6th grade because I had to show everybody how cool I was, and of course I got caught. But no huge deals, really. I have a mom and dad. I have 4 brothers and a sister. I know who they are and where they are, and life was pretty good. Pretty much drinking was normal. It was normal in pretty much everything we did, and we did a lot of hunting, a lot of fishing, motorcycle riding, snowmobiles, hiking. It was just drinking was always involved, and nobody thought twice about it. And I did those things because we could drink, And so I had a lot of fun drinking early on. We had kegers. We'd have kegers before school. We'd have kegers on the weekend. my friends, they smoke pot. I smoked pot every day for 3 years, and I never liked it. Never liked it. I thought my friends, if I didn't smoke pot, they would think I was a narc. But after I smoked the pot, it just makes me want to be, I think I'm a psychiatrist when I smoke it. So, because then I'm watching you, and I know what you're thinking, and we're all sitting, sort of becoming part of the couch, and, so I got to drink on top of that because I got to get rid of that thinking. It brings me down. But when I drink alcohol, I know alcohol is a depressant, but alcohol is not a depressant if you're alcoholic. At least for the first 30 minutes towards the end, and maybe for a few hours in the beginning, because alcohol jacks me up. Alcohol it makes me want to get up and go somewhere and be somebody. And that's why we always read about alcoholics in the paper, because we get up and go somewhere and do something stupid, And so, like I said, I had a lot of time. In 7th grade, I went to a party, had my first real liquor, and believe it or not, I had hair back then. They called me Goldilocks. The girls said they washed my hair in wine. I don't remember a minute of it. I went home. Mom and Dad were there. They were supposed to be gone. I walked right past my dad and right past my mom, went down and passed out. She said she, came down and was slapping me, trying to wake me up, and she couldn't get me to wake up. That was the first time I really drank, and it didn't get much better. So I can tell you, just on it goes, and when I'm 20 years, I ran away in my junior year of high school, right up the street, with a friend, and lived with him, and I just left my parents a note. I said, leave me alone, I'll finish high school, and, that was that. And so, like 2 weeks later, my parents and my brothers and sister moved out of town, and I thought, whoa, I guess this is for real. So, anyways, I graduated. They came back to my graduation. I didn't invite them. They asked me if I wanted to come back home. I didn't really have any place to go, so I did. And we went to a smaller town in Wyoming, like Green River, Rock Springs. Anybody ever hear of those places? Anyways, now that's a drinking town, all right? It's a mining town. It's an oil field town. It's a railroad town. Everybody works shift work. You can order open drinks out the window. You can walk down the street with a drink, a beer, 6 in the morning, 6 at night. Doesn't matter. Nobody will look at you twice. And my dad had a bar. So I recommend that if you're alcoholic. I could drink as much as I wanted, as often as I wanted. I can tell you, so I got here when I was 29 years old, okay? So I'm 35, so I'm 64 years old. But so I know I got here at least 10 years sooner had I not had, I never had a marriage to slow me down. I never had a career to slow me down. I didn't have anything to slow me down. I drank as much as I could, as often as I could. I did a lot of go fasts. We had like Pink Hearts and Black Beauties and White Crosses. I'm really dating myself, I can remember at school setting my alarm for an hour early, waking up, taking a couple of Black Beauties, go back to sleep, and then wake up wired, I want to wake up, hit the ground running, And so that's what I did. And at 20 years old, I'm working at the railroad. I'm making good money. I'm making $500 a week. That's good money in 1977. It's not terrible money now. And I had zero bills. I had no rent. I had no vehicle payment. I lived at home. I didn't have to pay for food, nothing. And I get paid on Friday, and I'd be bumming lunch money on Monday. And top shelf booze was like a buck and a quarter. And I was very selfish. I didn't buy a lot of drinks. So anyways, I get this truck. It's Christmas time, and we go partying. Because what we do in Wyoming, there's nothing going on in our town, so we drive to your town, and we do this. And so we drive over to another town, and we get liquored up, and we're partying and carrying on, and the bars close, and we come back home. And coming back home, I came to on a gurney with 2 cops to my left and my parents to my right telling me my brother didn't make it. My brother was 18, and I was 20, and you know, you read about stuff like that, you hear about stuff like that, but it just doesn't happen to you, you know. And I immediately, deep inside of me, I said, alcohol killed my brother Carl, and it will kill me too. So I said I hurt when I didn't hurt. They gave me a shot. You know, I could have done this. As sober as I am today, then I could have killed myself easy. I think it would have been easier. I couldn't put my parents through any more pain, my other brothers or sister through any more pain. So my great solution was, I'm going to drink and I'm going to die. And they'll say, poor Craig, look what happened to him. Same thing that happened to Carl. So I can tell you that was in 1977. I got sober in 87, so I got 10 years of running and gunning hard, because now I'm drinking to cover up what happened when I drank, you know. And alcohol is the only thing that'll turn this off. Sometimes for 20 minutes, sometimes for 30 minutes. It doesn't matter. Alcohol allowed me to live with myself for what I had done while I was drinking. And I drank for blackouts. You know, hopefully I would, well, for pass out. Hopefully I would pass out before I blacked out, because then I wouldn't make an ass out of myself. And, you know, I wrecked a lot more cars. I wrecked, you know, I got a lot more DUIs. I didn't kill anybody else. I didn't hurt anybody else, thank God. But, you know, that accident doesn't make me an alcoholic. I know today I was born an alcoholic. I didn't know that then. Did that accelerate my drinking? Yes, it did. Did I crawl into a bottle? Yes, I did. And like I said, it helped me get here at least 10 years quicker. You know, if I help one other person in Alcoholics Anonymous, my brother didn't die in vain. You know, so with all that, I can tell you, I've seen all the doctors, I've seen all the therapists, psychiatrists, sociologists, therapists, counselors. I've been given all the pills, you know, take these, don't drink. You know, if you tell me take this and don't drink, that means drink, you know. I'm an alcoholic, you know. I just flat out, I went to my doctor, I said, you know what, these pills don't work. They don't work, but drinking does. Because I can tell you what, I did all that. I did LSD, mushrooms, I did a lot of stuff. But when I pick up a bottle of bourbon, take about 3 or 4 swigs, I can breathe. I can breathe. And there ain't no drug that can fix me like that. You know, when I came in here, I was alcoholic addict. You know, I'm an alcoholic and you know, and really that only lasted about 3 meetings. And this old timer, about as old as I am now, he was thumping me in the chest, you know, and I'm going to clock this dude, you know. And he says, Craig, he says, this is Alcoholics Anonymous. We identify as alcoholics. He says, you say you want what we have, and the first thing you do is you identify differently. He says, if we come in here and we wait for everybody to state they're an alcoholic and every other addiction or problem they have, we ain't going to have time for a meeting. You know? And I thought, you know, so I didn't do it anymore. But I think about that today, because I thought, seriously, this guy was like, he was like an old man. John Frio, he was over 40 years sober. You know? He didn't care about my feelings, you know? He knew that if I didn't get this program, I was going to die. So anyways, this stuff goes on, and the only reason I even came here was to, I said, I was going to try everything. I was going to kill myself back then. 10 years alcohol worked, it quit working, so now I am going to kill myself. Now I can't live with myself. I can't live with what I've done. Alcohol doesn't kill the pain, and so now I'm going to kill myself. But I'm going to come to AA just to check it off the list. I didn't come here to get God. I was atheist. I didn't want God. I didn't come here to be Mr. AA. I didn't want to be Mr. A. I did not want this to work. I just wanted to come here and, you know, just get it done and go back out there. And I tell you what, I was in college and I was in psychology class, and a kid had written a paper on the 12 steps, and for whatever reason, the professor broke his anonymity. And so I went up to that kid after the class, and I said, hey, could you take me to some of those meetings with you? And he said, sure. And he took me to some meetings, and he took me to the old Sawar Club, 34 West Dunlap, the shittiest club I ever been in. I mean, it was I had to duck to go in there. I'm not very tall. The fans were looking like they're going to fall any second. The smoke was 4 feet off the ceiling. Everybody there was 100 years plus. They're about as old as I am now. And some old lady, if you want what we got, you'll go to any length to get it. And I said, I got more than you'll ever have, and I don't need it, you know. And I was sick, I'll tell you. But there was one guy there. He had tried to kill himself the night before, so I thought he probably needed my help. So I would talk to him, and I'd talk to him and talk to his wife and tell her what was wrong with him. And there was a younger gal there. They were giving her a 1-year cake. And I said, well, ain't that nice? They give her a cake for not drinking on weekends or not drinking during the week. And they said, no, Craig, she didn't drink the whole year. And I said, no, I don't believe that. I didn't believe it. Yeah, I'm sure there's people in here tonight thinking, that dude, 35 years, why would you even still come here? Well, you know, why? What the hell? That's what I thought. How long does it take to get this, you know? I mean, I thought there were a bunch of derelicts. I mean, we read that 5th chapter at every meeting. How long does it take to get it? I mean, come on. You know, geez, I thought. But, and then one gal got up there and she says, well, Craig, you're so smart, you're going to have to step over a couple dead ones before you get this program. And I thought, boy, she's a cold-hearted witch, you know. And she was right. And my first 2 years of sobriety, I was pallbearer twice. The second kid was 25 years old. He died of liver failure and hepatitis. And my sponsor took me and made me touch the body. And he said, that's untreated alcoholism. It'll kill you and it'll kill me. And it scared me. It scared me and it woke me up. And so I said, okay, what do we got to do? You know, and I asked this guy to be my sponsor. I'd gone around. I really thought I was worse than anybody here. I didn't feel I deserved to be happy. I didn't feel I deserved to be sober. I didn't feel I deserved anything. I didn't feel I deserved to be sucking air. I didn't deserve to be taking up space on this earth. When I came here drinking. I couldn't look you in the eye. I looked at my shoes. I came late. I left early. I was not worthy. And I can tell you, I came here drunk one night. It was Greenway Hall. It was about 200-300 strong, a stag meeting. And a guy got up. His name was Craig, and he was speaking. He was drinking. He was driving. His brother died, and he was sober. And it was like he was shouting at me through a bullhorn. I was sitting in the back row, and I knew that if that man could do it, that I could do it. I got sober that night, that week. I don't even know if I got sober that year. What I know was somebody took away my terminal uniqueness, that I'm different from you, and made it okay for me to come here and have a seat. And so when I got ready, I came here and grabbed a seat. I asked this guy, Gordy, to sponsor me, and Gordy was a hard ass, you know. Now, I didn't know he was a hard ass. I thought he was always laughing, telling jokes. We'd drink coffee, eat cake. We did it every night after every meeting, 7 nights a week, you know. But this one night, I asked him to sponsor me, and so we went to the coffee shop, and everybody else sat at the big main table, and he took me over in a booth, and he talked, and I listened, you know, and he just didn't shut up. He's you're going to sit in the front 2 rows, you know. You're going to stay seated during the meeting. You don't get coffee. You don't go to the bathroom. You don't talk to women. You know, if you get called on, you can state your name and your disease. He says, for 1 year, you're not going to talk. He says, Craig, we're talking about recovery, and you don't have any, you know. And he said, you're not going to talk to women, get women's phone numbers. He says, you're going to get this book. He says, you're going to read 2 pages a day. He says, you're going to call me every day. Just on and on. You're going to ask for help every day. And I said, whoa. I said, I don't believe in this God stuff. He said, I didn't ask you to believe. He said, you're going to do the lip service. You're going to ask him for help in the morning, and if you don't drink, you're going to thank him at night. I went home that night with my 5 days of sobriety because I didn't want your 24-hour chip. I was smart. I didn't need a 24-hour chip, God, I was so prideful, so arrogant. I said a prayer, and something happened. Something happened. Now, God didn't come in the room and didn't light up. He didn't talk to me, but I felt warm. I felt comfortable. Deep down, I just knew if I didn't drink, everything was going to be okay. Now, that thought didn't come from me because I didn't want that to be the answer. Alcohol was the only answer I ever had. Alcohol was the only thing that ever worked for me, and you can't take away my alcohol. That's what it took me so long to get that. Because if you take away my alcohol, everything's supposed to get better, and then, I'm fine. I'm here to tell you, if you're just a heavy drinker and you quit drinking, you ain't got any problems, you are not an alcoholic. If you are an alcoholic and you quit drinking, alcoholism is what rises to the top. I become restless, irritable, and discontent. Oh, God. Now, I got that. I got that in spades because I don't know how to live sober. So now, I'm 29 years old, and I'm like a teenager. They used to say, you're as old as when you picked up your first drink emotionally. So I was like 13 years old, in a 29-year-old body. Life is over. I can't drink, How do you talk to a woman sober? How do you have sex with a woman sober? How do you kiss sober? How do you dance? I didn't know how any of that. There's a lot of announcements tonight, this ASCII-PA and all that. We had dances all over, Of course, they called them the 13-step dances, And it sounds like a few of you have heard of that term, but, but I was scared to death, So, anyways, Gordy gets a hold of me, and he just says, well, if you're going to, he said, there's Meeting Goers Anonymous, and there's Coffee Drinkers Anonymous, and there's Grab Ass Anonymous, and he said, and there's Alcoholics Anonymous. He says, if you want to get sober, you got to join Alcoholics Anonymous. And he says, we're going to do this. You got to get a home group. The way you join AA is you get a home group, you get a sponsor, and you get a position in your home group, And he says, your position is going to be coffee maker. And I said, well, Gordy, I'm pretty smart. I'm college educated. I think I should probably have a position. He said, you will make coffee for a year. Okay. And I didn't know you could fire your sponsor. I didn't know you could say F you to your sponsor. I thank God I didn't. He saved my life. He said, I made coffee for a year, and after, I didn't want to give it up. Nobody else could line up the chairs right. Nobody else I said, God, they ain't doing it right. They ain't doing it right, And then they give me the secretary position, and then, intergroup and PICPC and all the positions. I've had all the positions, but I grew up in my home group, The 18-month chip came out when I was getting sober, and I had 18 months. I run down the intergroup. I buy a couple chips because me and my buddy were both getting 18 months. I go back to the home group in Maryvale, and one of the guys says, Craig, I heard you were over in intergroup buying chips. I said, yep. And I said, I got me and Rodney 18-month chip. And he says, well, Maryvale doesn't give 18-month chips. I said, well, they do now. He says, well, we'll have to have a home group meeting. So afterward, we have a home group meeting, and I lost. And I'll tell you what, I was at least 5 or 6 years sober before I put that money back in the basket. You talk about a resentment. I was pissed off, but I went in PICPC. I did a lot of talking in the schools, a lot of talking at health fairs, to probation officers, to attorneys, judges, at the college level, And really, I mean, I did a lot of that, but I was doing it all out of pride. I was doing it all out of ego. I was doing it all out of, look at me, look at me. I got this horrific story, and I'm going to sober everybody up, That's sort of what I'm thinking, I just, thank God, God seen fit that I could stay in spite of myself. But some of the lessons in that, I did Adobe, which is juvenile detention up north in Phoenix there, and I thought, they were bad kids in there, And these kids, I'd go in there and I'd ask them what they're in there for, and they're like, incorrigibility, or curfew, or these kids weren't bad kids at all. They were throwaway kids. They were there because their parents couldn't drink and drug the way they wanted to drink with them around, so they threw them away. And then these kids would, they would cry because they'd say, I get beat up every day until I join a gang. I don't want to join a gang, but I have to join a gang. And so then I went from there, and I went out to the prison system into Perryville, which was then a men's facility. And the head guy from Adobe went out to Perryville. And so I asked him, I said, how many of your kids come out here? How many of your kids from Adobe? He said about 70 to 80% of them. I said, doesn't that tell you your way doesn't work? And then I'm doing Perryville, and God, the stories I hear in there are horrific. And I was working with a guy named Rocky. Rocky was doing 10 years flat for double vehicular manslaughter that he didn't remember. The judge had to tell him what happened. And when Rocky shared that with me, he leveled me, he humbled me. I realized I should be wearing orange, and I should be sitting in that chair, because the DUI laws are a lot different in 1977 than they are now. And I'll tell you what, they're different everywhere. If you drink and drive and kill somebody today, I don't care if it's your mother, brother, sister, father, you're going to prison for a long, long time. And so I started going out there with a whole different attitude and a whole different message of sharing rather than preaching. And I've actually reached a few of those guys, and actually Joseph is one of them. Joseph will be up here Saturday. A real remarkable story. But it changed my life, because when I started doing that and doing the jails and all that, when I'd go in the jail, I would dress down, okay? I'd take my watch off, and I wouldn't dress up. And Gory says, no. He says, you put on your best shirt and your best watch, and you go in there and you show them what AA gave you. And he says, when you go to prison, you do the same thing. And because I didn't want to go to prison, I never did time. I should have, but I didn't. And he says, Craig, those guys don't want to know how to get in prison. He said, they already know that. He says, they want to know how to stay out, He says, that's what you're doing. That's what you can show them. Show them what AA's done for you. The lessons I've gotten here, the miracles. The fact that I'm sitting 6 hours in the ER with my mom today. My mom tried to come between me and a drink once when I had already started drinking. And when I went to make my amends to her, and we say that little phrase, was there anything else I did? And she said, well, a matter of fact, there was. There was a time you were going to drink, and I tried to stop you. And she goes, I'm not going to tell you what you said to me, but, I know I got a razor sharp tongue, and I know I must have cut her to threads. And I went and I left and I got the booze, And when I pick up a drink, it doesn't matter who tries to come between me and the booze. The booze is going to win every time. And that's the same with Alcoholics Anonymous. If I try to put something else in front of my AA, and trust me, I've seen a lot of people do it. We get well, some of us relatively quickly. We come here and we get the job back, we get her back, we get the house, we get the car, and pretty soon, well, I can't go to AA, I got to go to work. I can't go to AA. I got to go to the football game. You know, I can't go. I got to go to the play. I got to go to the movie. Gordy taught me, he said, you don't plan anything around AA. You plan AA and everything else works around that, everything. Doctor's appointments. Matter of fact, he said, you don't go to the doctor the first year. The first year, you don't go to the doctor because if you do, you're going to be on pills, you know? And he says, and your enzymes, your liver enzymes are going to be off the charts. Your eyes are not going to be the same. Nothing is going to be the same. And he's right, you know? I mean, unless you have something pressing. And he said, don't take anything stronger than an aspirin. I went out and bought a bottle of 500 aspirin. Now, I don't know why, but I did that. And then he came to my house. He wanted to know what I had in my fridge, what I had in my medicine cabinet, you know. He wanted to know if I had vanilla extract and Grey Poupon. And this crap had alcohol. I didn't even know what it was, you know. And no NyQuil and no, you know. He'd go through the medicine cabinet and he, I guess they used to call it de-alkalize my house or whatever. But, you know, I needed that. I needed that. Now, you know, today it's, you know, if alcohol's around, I don't have an alcoholic mind. It doesn't bother me. But I needed it. He wanted to know how much money I had in my bank account, you know, and how much money I made. He was nosy, you know. And I told him everything. I had never told, you know, I had many people try to help me. Many people asked me these questions, and I never told any of them the truth. But for some reason, I told him the truth because he knew there were amends to be made, you know, and I was going to be making amends. And I can tell you, matter of fact, I just got my tax bill today, but my first tax bill when I first got sober, and I could tell just a little lie, and I wouldn't have to pay him nothing. Or I tell the truth and I had to pay money, and I don't like paying IRS money. And Gordy said, well, you can't be all honest here in AA and not honest out there. So I told the truth, and I wrote the check, and I'll tell you what, I made a check out. I said to communist pigs, and they cashed my check, okay? Now, I've talked to people since then, and they told me, hey, I just got nasty with them on the phone, and they audited me. And I thought, I don't do that anymore. But, you know, but I was 7 years paying back my financial amends. 7 years paying back my student loans, paying back mom and dad. And, you know, my dad didn't let me off the hook. And I thank God he didn't, you know. And when I finished paying that last check, we wrote checks back then, you know. I mean, I used to be able to write hot checks to drink, too. You can't do that anymore either. But, you know, I never felt so good in my life. I never felt so free. And I can remember buying my first house, and my dad wanted to pay my closing costs and everything, and so he could live with me, you know. And the table sort of turned, and my sponsor said, Craig, the Southern tradition applies to our personal life too. We have to become self-supporting, you know. He says, you have to do this on your own. And I tell you, it took every penny I had in savings, every savings bond I'd ever purchased, everything, but I did it on my own, you know. And I felt good. And it was hard. That was a hard conversation with Dad because he was alone at the time, and he wanted to live with me, and it turned out to be the best thing ever. My dad, when I got sober, my dad was very big. He was obese, okay? And I hated to go to eat with my father. And so I was going to make my amends to him, and I asked him where he wanted to go to eat, and we went to some place to eat. And so before we started, though, he goes, you know, I don't ever remember my father hugging me. I don't ever remember my father telling me he loved me, you know. And when he shared that with me, it's just like all that resentment, it all just went away. You know, my dad had always loved me, but he didn't love me the way I thought he should, you know. I'm like demanding the way he should love me. My sponsor would say, Craig, you're going to McDonald's and you're ordering steak, and they don't have steak, you know, and you're getting pissed off, you know. He said, you just accept it. So I thought my dad was going to die. That's where I was going. And so I was trying to buy life insurance on my dad, okay, my first year sober, okay. My dad just died in 2017. He was 91 years old. You know, World War II, just a great, great man. I got 30 wonderful years with him, you know. And I didn't really know how, after my brother died, I went to a lot of funerals, as I said, and you will too. They used to tell us to buy a suit, and it wasn't for going for job interviews, you know. It was for going to funerals, you know. And so I didn't know, I was afraid to go to open casket funerals because I didn't know what I was going to see. I freaked out at my brothers, and I didn't know how I would act. And at 12 years sober, Janice, her husband had died. I was at a meeting at their house two nights before. And anyways, I met her at the front door, and next thing I knew, we were standing in front of the casket. You know, and Elsie was there, and it just looked like he was asleep, and it was okay, and I was at peace. You know, God has always walked me through any situation that I had trouble with. And I tell you, I was very prejudiced when I got here. I didn't like Mexicans, okay? I was 9 years old. I was shopping with food stamps. We're on food stamps, and I'm coming home, and these two Mexicans tell me they're going to cut off my fingers and steal my groceries. I believe them. You know, I'm a kid. I'm scared, so I'm just ignorant. One of the first guys I sponsored, Mexican Johnny, that's what he called himself. Mexican Johnny grew up on 12th Street in Van Buren. And I'll tell you what, that's a rough neighborhood. Johnny would pull up his shirt. He'd say, that's a knife wound, that's a gun wound, that's a knife wound. He had a plate in his head. He was left for dead, and a drug deal gone bad. And Johnny didn't know how to read and write. And I taught Johnny how to read and write and took him through the steps. And Johnny would kill for me. I mean, we'd go into a restaurant, and Johnny'd say, Craig, they're dissing you. You want me to kick their ass? I said, no, Johnny, no. We quit fighting anything or anybody, you know? It was, you know, God love him. I was very homophobic when I got here. And then I heard there were some of them in the rooms, so I would try to get between two women when we said the Lord's Prayer. And so this guy, at 5 years sober, he asked me to sponsor him. I said, okay, and I take him out to dinner, and I said, well, where do you go to meetings? And he goes, well, I go to Mid-City, and I go to Lambda. And I said, you what? I said, are you gay? And he says, yeah. He goes, I got to be honest. I said, yeah. I said, I'll be honest with you. 5 years ago, I'm out of here. And so I don't know what to do or what to say, so I say a prayer. And this is what comes to me. I don't get up here and say, my name's Craig, and I'm heterosexual, and I'm an alcoholic. So I told Joel, I said, as long as you don't have an attraction towards me, we can go through the 12 steps. And so then he said he didn't. And then I didn't know if that was a compliment or an insult, you know. Joel taught me more about love than his lover had died, and he wasn't able to mourn with his own family because he wasn't out. You know, he talked about having girlfriends and trying to be normal, and I never tried to be anybody other than what I was. I drank as much as I could, as often as I could. If you're okay with that, great. If you're not, that's fine, you know. The full circle of that, at 14 years sober, my younger brother, who's a captain in the Air Force and plays football, he comes to me with a stack. He's also got a master's in theology. Comes to me with a stack of books about like that, and he says, Craig, I'm gay. And I said, that's all right, Kevin. I said, just be who you are. That could not have happened. That would not have happened without Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, my oldest brother was right behind me when I started this program. I don't know if I had 90 days or 9 months, but he was right behind me, and he went to 7 meetings in 7 days, and he never went to another meeting in 7 years. And all that time, I'm trying to tell him what my sponsor tells me, because, of course, if you don't get a sponsor, if you don't work, you're going to get drunk. If you don't do this, you're going to get drunk, you're going to get drunk. And so I'd be telling him, and anyways. And he got in trouble, and he went away for a long time. He went away for a long time. Now, I can tell you, when you lose a brother and you go through his things and he's dead, it's much different than when they're locked up and you know it's not a better place, and you know you can't call them anytime you want, and you can't send them whatever you want, and they can't call you whenever you want, and every time you get on that phone, there's a correction department, da-da-da-da-da-da, you know, and it sucks. When somebody in your family does time, the whole family does time. The whole family does time. And what I got was, I can't help my brother, but I can help your brother. So I went back and doubled up and started prison meetings again and started doing Lewis, and, you know, my cup runneth over. You know, every time I try to give back, every time I try to pay back Alcoholics Anonymous, I just get more and more. I can tell you, I got married in this program, and it didn't last very long, but it was a great marriage. We traveled a lot, you know, and I mean, we went to like Ireland a couple times, we went to Bermuda, to Mexico, to Switzerland, Italy, Germany, Austria. Wherever we went to Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, I can tell you, I've been in France and climbed Chamonix. You know, I've been on the Rhine River in Germany. I've been in meetings. I don't understand the language. I can't understand a word they're saying, but I can feel it. I can feel it. And, you know, where else can you get that? You know, where else can you get that? For free and for fun. We're free and for fun, and we throw $1 in the basket if we have it, you know. The miracles that Alcoholics Anonymous has given me, none of my other brothers have made it here. A couple of them probably need it. My sister made it, though. My sister just celebrated a couple of years, and I really didn't. My sister was over on the island for 30 years, so I'd seen her a few times, but not enough to know if she was alcoholic or not. But that is interesting. So she just quit as an experiment, really, and she would call and ask me questions and say that, and I thought, man, she's sounding like, you know, one of my newcomers, you know. And so I said, well, Kyrie, why don't you go to some meetings? And she goes, well, I'm not alcoholic. I said, well, just go and, you know, have somebody take you through the steps and find out. I said, nobody's going to tell you you're not, you know, and they're not going to tell you you are, but you need to find out for yourself. Just find a lady, go through the steps, and you'll find out. And she has, and she, you know, she's been sticking with it, and it's pretty neat to see. You know, it's beautiful to see. You know, everything that I have, everything that I am, is because of Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, I don't have anything that I don't owe to this program, and I don't take it lightly, because I've buried a lot. You know, you don't have to be here very long, and you'll bury somebody. You know, and nothing is wasted here. Nothing's wasted. If somebody goes out and kills himself tonight, there's going to be some people that bite off another piece of this program and get it a little bit deeper as a result of that. You know, it's just, we use everything here. Every guy, every gal, you know, lots of times in the meetings I close my eyes because I don't want to judge you. I can't lay eyes on you without judging you. But I want to sit quiet. I want to listen to the message, because it always comes from the guy or gal I know it's not going to come from. The guy or gal I know they're going to say the same shit again, you know. But I'll hear something. I say, wow, you know, where'd that come from? So about out of time here. I thank you. I thank you for my life. If you're new here, get a sponsor. If you don't have a sponsor, get a sponsor before you leave that door tonight, like your life depends upon it, because it does. And get a home group and get a position. Thank God for AA. I thank you people for showing me my God. Thank you.